fighting games are hard, and one of the most common grievances I've come across, especially among people who are early on in the learning process, is something akin to, I still can't beat these players at my locals no matter how hard I train. Why aren't I getting better? And to that, my answer is always the same. You are getting better. But so are they. Um, just because, you're still losing doesn't mean you aren't improving at the game. If you're putting time in and you're practicing and you're, getting experience and doing all the things that you need to do, you are getting better at the game. The problem is you're using wins and losses to measure your progress. And even worse, you're using wins and losses among people that you play against regularly. And what that's doing is you're comparing yourself to people who are improving at the same rate you are. Because if you're at level 1 and the player you really want to beat is at level 2, and you're both putting in similar, if not the same amounts of work, by the time you hit level 2, they're going to hit level 3. And that doesn't invalidate the fact that you hit level 2. You've made the improvements. You've put in the work to hit level 2, and you've earned it. And that doesn't mean you haven't improved, because you have. You went from level 1 to level 2. But the difference there is still a whole level. You know what I mean? It's really hard. You're hitting a moving target, basically. Or you're trying to hit a moving target. Right? You're setting goals based on beating people. But those people are growing and improving just like you are. And in fact, you growing and improving is helping them grow and improve. Because as you learn new things to apply to your game, you're exposing them to these new things, and then they have to learn how to deal with them. And vice versa. So it can be really frustrating when you're putting in a lot of work in training mode and, you're doing everything that you need to do, and it doesn't feel like you're making any progress because you keep losing to the same people. But when you play the same people every week, they're so used to you and you're so used to them that it makes it really hard for the results to change, because playing them sort of becomes muscle memory, I guess, even though it's technically not. But playing them becomes a routine, and them playing you becomes a routine. So even though you are getting better, you're hiding your progress behind these walls of routine. So the important thing to remember about this is the fact that wins and losses in general, especially in tournament, don't measure your progress. Losing doesn't mean you aren't getting better. It just means that the stuff you got exposed to in that round, in those games, is something that you haven't gotten comfortable dealing with yet. And that's fine. There's so many things to learn and get comfortable with in fighting games that you're always going to run into stuff that you don't quite have a grasp on. So you can't use that to tell yourself, oh, I'm not getting better, or my practice isn't working, or my effort doesn't mean anything, because that's just not true. What you should be looking at to judge yourself is specific situations that you've worked on. You need to learn fighting games sort of one step at a time, one matchup at a time, one mix-up at a time. And so you should be judging yourself on those small things, right? Like, oh, did I tech this throw better this round? Or did I block that mix-up that I can never block? You need to be looking for those small things in your play, because those are the things that are going to come together and make you a better player. Just looking at, the hard numbers of did I win or not is just going to set you up for disappointment. And I think that's really the message that I wanted to get out in this one is you need to look at progress as a gradual thing. And for some people it takes longer than others. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. Losing doesn't mean you're not getting better. And you need to not pay as much attention to winning and losing, and you need to pay more attention to the small things. And the things that I listed were like teching throws or blocking a specific mix-up. Those are all examples, but there's hundreds of millions of unlimited things in fighting games to familiarize yourself with. So start with the things that give you trouble. Lab those characters that your buddies at your locals play that, you have trouble fighting, and see what you can learn about them. And then sometimes you'll learn the right thing and be prepared to beat that guy that plays that character that you labbed against. And that one specific situation you labbed will be the thing that wins you the tournament set. That won't happen all the time, but when it does, that's what keeps me in fighting games. The very small things that I lab, that I pay attention to, are what gives me the motivation to practice and study that what a lot of people would consider tedious. But I love it when it pays off in a match, especially when there's something on the line. Yeah, I guess that's the main point I was trying to make here, is that progress can't be measured, especially at a lower level. Like, when you're first getting into fighting games, this is even more true. It's true at a high level, too. But at a lower to intermediate level is when this really matters. You need to not be so focused on winning tournaments and be more focused on winning individual situations within the game. And then you should be focused on gaining more knowledge about the game and then applying that knowledge. And when you start to pay attention and see those little things pay off, you'll feel a lot better about your progress.